Activism has had a huge influence on art today, with famous artists like Banksy and Nan Goldin using their platforms to spread awareness of their beliefs and take action. Although activist art seems like a relatively new concept, examples of political art have been found from as early as the 1700s. Jacques-Louis David was a French painter and an active member of the French Revolution. David's piece, The Lictors Bring to Brutus the Bodies of His Sons, depicts the scene of Brutus, an important figure in the Roman Republic, reacting to the deaths of his sons. Since his sons wanted to overthrow the government and restore the monarchy, Brutus ordered their death. The painting symbolized Brutus making immense sacrifices for the Republic. The French government forbade the painting from being exhibited as it was seen to be propaganda supporting the French Revolution. This caused outrage with the French people that forced the royal court to give their permission for the exhibition of the painting. The purpose of activist art is to stir up controversy and turn heads. It has become more and more common in today's art world due to more and more working class people, and just people in general, being able to make art, as well as our ever-changing and unstable political climate. To aid this presentation, I would like to focus on the case study of Nan Goldin, an American photographer who uses her platform for activism. Particularly, I wanted to explore her work surrounding the AIDS epidemic in the 80s and 90s, and more recently, her work on the opioid crisis. All her life, Goldin has been passionate about positive change in the world and used her photography to aid her causes. Goldin grew up in a conservative household in the suburb of Massachusetts, with her middle-class Jewish parents and her older sister Barbara. Barbara was rebellious and struggled with her sexuality, which her parents covered up by claiming she was mentally ill and sending her to mental institutions. Barbara committed suicide when Nan was 11, which would change Nan's perspective on life forever. Goldin bounced around foster families and group homes after her sister's death, but eventually ended up in downtown New York with her friend David Armstrong, who was openly gay, androgynous, and who would also become a known photographer. She began creating The Ballad of Sexual Dependency as a slideshow at the time, photographing her friends and lovers, calling it the diary I let people read. Although not as a parent, Goldin's early work, like The Ballad of Sexual Dependency, were activism art, showing the public things that were taboo at the time and spreading her point of view on intimacy and friendship. Part of The Ballad of Sexual Dependency was a showcase of Goldin's relationship and abuse from her boyfriend at the time. Goldin displayed self-portraits of herself after experiencing domestic violence from her partner. In her documentary, All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, she admitted that taking photos of her injuries after the attack is what kept her from going back to him. Goldin also said in the documentary that women who had been victims of domestic violence had come to her and said they were able to talk about it because of those pictures. Goldin's first art show was a group exhibition featuring artists of various mediums living with AIDS, called Witnesses Against Our Vanishing. By simply taking photographs and exhibiting them, Goldin was being an activist for the queer and female community. Although these photographs were just her normal life with her friends and lovers, when displayed for the public they took on a whole new meaning of defiance and liberation. Her photo, Gotchka Kissing Gillies, is a powerful image she exhibited at the time, showing AIDS victims as humans who have friends and loved ones, not the deviants they had been portrayed as by the conservative media. Goldin, in talking about how the AIDS crisis affected her friends and community, said, "Pictures of friends seen in moments of joy or excitement unexpectedly became elegiac tributes, memorials to a lost generation." Another artist who worked at the time to destigmatize the AIDS epidemic was Keith Haring, who was also watching his community die out from the deadly disease. Haring's approach was very different to Goldin's, yet just as powerful. Haring's colourful cartoons were eye-catching and almost juvenile, but many contained messages of protest, mainly surrounding the AIDS crisis. His work, Ignorance Equals Fear, used the pink triangle used in concentration camps in World War II to signify gay prisoners, but turned it upside down in the piece to denounce shame. Haring died of AIDS-related complications in 1990, but like Goldin, his work had a huge impact during the AIDS crisis and remains influential to this day. As Goldin gained fame and money, she turned her attention to the opioid crisis and the Sackler family in particular. Goldin stated in an interview, "I survived the opioid crisis. after a years-long battle in which she overdosed after being prescribed OxyContin and becoming addicted. She founded the group PAIN, which stands for Prescription Addiction Intervention Now, to protest the Sackler family, who owns the pharmaceutical company responsible for the epidemic. The Sackler family donated money to many museums and galleries around the world and had exhibition spaces named in their honour. Goldin and Payne staged die-ins at the Metropolitan Museum of Art and the Guggenheim Museum, using empty opioid bottles to get the message across. This was not only a protest but also an artwork, curated and performed by the group in order to take the Sackler family down. Their demonstrations had and continued to have great success in stopping museums from accepting money from the Sackler family and removing their name from galleries. As activist art is intended to address world issues, it has obviously been controversial. Carl Einstein was one of the first to advocate for activist art, for works that are not just aesthetic, but campaign for actual changes of being. Though activism art is more widely appreciated now, large art galleries are still hesitant to show it due to the controversial nature. Conservative British critic and commentator Alexander Adams is in favour of artivism, but argues in his book Artivism: The Battle for Museums in the Era of Postmodernism that activism erodes the principles underpinning museums, putting their existence at risk. Though Adams argues that artivism undermines the values of top galleries, they may also be putting themselves at risk by not changing their values with the times. Nan Goldin was due to do a retrospective with the National Portrait Gallery, but pulled out of the deal as the gallery were in the middle of accepting money from the Sackler family. Though galleries have the right not to show activist art that they do not agree with, galleries are not exempt from being held to modern moral values and should evolve with society. Gregory Sholette states in his book that forms of art activism from the 80s onwards were focused less on seeking broad political transformation or establishing a progressive alternative counterculture than on targeting highly specific social issues. Sholette states that today, the line between activism and art has blurred. He argues how it is that artists now make art about political and social issues as if they were activist campaigns, yet protest and denounce the institutions in which they show it at the same time. Sholette argues that sometimes the liberty of artists comes at the expense of those lower down the social pecking order, that art activists make work criticising the social and political structures we abide by while simultaneously accepting money from those institutions in order to make more art. Banksy is another modern example of activist art. He has been regarded as the master of street art. Banksy creates politically motivated street art to draw attention to the causes and call out the people behind them. Banksy has remained anonymous for his entire career, but has made many impactful and controversial pieces. Migrant Child Wearing a Life Jacket is a piece made by Banksy in Venice. Many believe this artwork is about the current refugee crisis, which Banksy has been very outspoken on, saying in an interview, "We're often led to believe migration is a drain of the country's resources, but Steve Jobs was the son of a Syrian migrant," after spraying an artwork of Steve Jobs at a refugee camp in Calais 4 years earlier. Even just the method of his art is controversial. Many people, especially older generations, disagree with any kind of graffiti, which just further increases the traction of his work. Banksy has brought street art into the public eye and made it appreciated more widely as an art form, which has been dubbed the Banksy effect. Artists like Banksy, Goldin, and Haring have shaped not only the art world, but society and politics too. Art activism has been successful in its cause. Nan Goldin's threat to pull her work from the National Portrait Gallery caused the gallery to end their deal with the Sackler family. Artists like Nan Goldin and Keith Haring used their art to help destigmatize the AIDS crisis in order for progress to be made towards treatment. Nan Goldin continues to use her work and protest to take the Sackler family down with great success. Overall, activist art is crucial to the art world and the wider world. It helps to spread awareness of causes that would otherwise be overlooked. Artivism has changed the world, and with help from artists like Goldin, Banksy, and Haring, will continue to do so.